IVM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fighting G.O.A.T. We're on episode 25 as you're joined by your hosts Arjun aka Mystic Chips and my buddy Somesh, the Superhuman Kamra, bringing you all the masti, maza, dhamaka and news from the world of fighting. 25 episodes in, buddy. How do you feel?
What is up, Chipalkatti? What is up, Mystic Chips? The man himself. So good to be here. 25 episodes with this wonderful company and obviously the wonderful, ever so knowledgeable Mystic Chips.
Baba. Too much praise, but 25 episodes and just after India's 75th anniversary. We just celebrated 15th of August yesterday.
Wow.
It was wonderful.
Yes.
Bombay was lit up. I actually went for a drive, I took the car
you
out.
did?
Yeah, I took the car out and I thought that chal khali ho gaya rasta and all. I went around 9 o'clock at night. I went to VT station and
nice.
I saw it. Wait, sorry, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus. And
correct,
I'm sorry,
correct.
I'm still Bombay. Na, it happens, abhi kya karega yaar? So I went there and I saw the beautiful sky lit up. I saw it full, the Tiranga flag was put all over Victoria Terminus. It was beautiful.
That is so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Man.
It gives you goosebumps at times.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's pride for our nation. It's in no matter what we do, no matter how in so many ways our country is messed up, but in so many ways it's also one of the best in the world.
Absolutely.
It just is, yeah.
Absolutely.
Can't help but feel proud sometimes.
It's crazy. And speaking about the best in the world, the topic for today that we have to touch up upon is obviously the best pound for pound combat athlete in the world. We had such a good discussion and a showdown not exactly showdown, it was more of a discussion in the morning between Mystic Chips and me, and we were talking about who's the best pound for pound. There was an era of Mark Coleman, the Hammer, way back in the day, versus Khabib, and how the sport has evolved and how the entire dynamics of the sport when it comes to coaching, strength training, psychological training, how all of that has come together. It's made this sport so beautiful. It has made the athletes better. It has made it better for the fans. It's made it better for people like us to speak about. So do you think someone like like a Mark Coleman way back, like one of the first few heavyweight fighters in the UFC, if he was born in today's era, would he have been a different fighter? But that's a conversation that we're going to be having a little later in this podcast. But yeah, let's speak about the week that was. Gegard Mousasi was back at Bellator.
Dude, Gegard was back, and Gegard actually. The thing is that I don't understand when people say, when a fighter is back, he didn't go anywhere. Oh yeah, it's kind of. When you say he's back, even in skills, it's just its styles make fights. Right. And the thing is that his opponent was a lot of people don't know who his opponent was, and it was not a very big name fighter, and Gegard proved why the guy didn't belong there, and he dispatched of him very, very soundly, very easily, and made it look easy. But I don't know, I don't see too many challenges for Gegard Mousasi in that division right now.
Right,
and
absolutely.
I think I really think sometimes even the biggest organizations in the world make mistakes, like letting some great fighters go. Right. I think they made a big mistake by if I had to say one bad thing, I would say the UFC should not have cut Rory McDonald. It should not have left. It should not have let Gegard Mousasi go. Absolutely. It should not have let Anthony Johnson go. These guys are still they're still there. They're still very relevant.
They're still there. And speaking of people that have been let go, Yoel Romero is back in this coming week.
Wasn't Yoel to fight Anthony Rumble Johnson at some point?
I think that fight fell off because of COVID. But right now, Yoel is fighting Phil Davis.
Oh, Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful is back. I think he's fighting Yoel Romero sometime this month.
That has Yoel brings the fight no matter what. But I just hope it doesn't become a staring contest.
Except versus Izzy.
Except versus Izzy. The thing is, Phil Davis is also a very defensive fighter. Yeah. He's not very easy to take down. He's tough. He's a very tough technical fighter, but he's just, let's just say his last few performances have been relatively cautious. Cautious is the word I'll use.
Right.
I wouldn't say lackluster because it's a tough sport and, it's technical and stuff. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure how that is going to go. I hope they bring the fight to each other. I really hope so.
Well, I personally believe it is going to be a staring contest because both the fighters are slightly defensive.
Dude, since when did Romero become defensive?
Well, I personally feel after that entire Izzy episode, he's just changed completely. His approach is if you don't bring on the fight to him, he's not gonna shoot the barrel. He's not.
Okay, maybe he wants to be a counter first kind of fighter because he went through those wars with Whittaker and with Costa. And he wants to maybe start countering and just waiting. But you have to realize he's also 85 years old in a 40-year-old body. He's also 85. He just looks, don't get fooled. He looks 40, but he's 85. Yeah. Actually, he's older than Olenek. He's way older than Alex. Alexei Olenek already looks like somebody's grandfather.
Well, he probably is.
No, he is. And we'll call up John Anik and find out.
Oh my God. This is
all your maternity news. Please refer to John Anik.
John Anik.
That's a funny thing that, we love John Anik and this is just a quirk that we have. It's just we've been noticing in the last fight, maybe the UFC had a word to him about that because he hasn't mentioned one pregnancy, nobody's children, not one kid, nobody's marital status, nobody's, whether they're gay, lesbian, partners, nothing. He's stuck to the fight game.
He's out of the hospital.
He's out. I think he may have opened his maternity clinic. So then he's like, okay, now let business roll on its own. Sorry, John Anik, we're just teasing you.
Yeah, that's crazy. But Chips, come on, 25 episodes, it's been such a pleasurable journey.
Oh, man.
The good part is that the number of listens have gone up, which means the interest in the sport is obviously there. People are listening to us. They're kind of tuning in. They're asking us questions. And I'm so happy because 25 episodes is something that not too many podcasts see. One is obviously because, the hosts have to be really dedicated. They have to keep going. They have to keep doing this every single week. But man, we've been doing it for the past 10 years. And it has been such a pleasurable journey because we just can't stop speaking. Our producers are like, cut.
Yeah, poor producers. Yeah, I mean Deeps, Rohini, and today we are joined by Vinay, I was having a very good discussion with him earlier about football. I realized how bad I am at other sports. We were talking about hooliganism and rowdiness. And I'm saying MMA is the one sport where the crowd doesn't really get rowdy as compared to say football, where there are deaths in the stadium.
Yeah.
And aag waag jalta hai and all that.
Yeah.
It's one of those sports. And then I was just thinking about, looking back at all our episodes of what all we've talked about in these. And we've had some great guests and we've had some, we've had guys like Ritu Fogat who've been on the show.
Yeah.
We've had Jessica Ramella who's been on the show. We've had Gary Mangat who's been on the show.
Right.
And we've got so many more guests to come. So 25 in and 25,000 to go. Buddy.
Wow. 25,000 weeks. I don't even know how many years is that.
God, I have no idea, dude. I don't know if he'll be alive also. Kaun jaane kya hota hai.
Well, even if you're not there, Alexei Olenek will be there. He'll be taking over.
He's not going anywhere. Guys like Olenek, they're just there. He'll never be cut. Just stay. Just going to be there. He's just going to be there. You can just call on every last moment to fight.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yes, I will fight. Wherever. Send location.
That's crazy. But yeah, it was relatively a quiet week for all MMA fans out here. There were no major events.
See, everybody's on holiday in the US.
It is that time of the year, where everyone just takes this 1 week off. But Bellator was there. Gegard Mousasi retained his belt. And obviously, it was a very flawless performance. And we pretty much knew that. We even spoke about the fact that Gegard Mousasi shouldn't have got cut by the UFC. He's that good a talent.
But did he get cut or did he leave?
I think he left. From the UFC. Because, he was originally in Pride and...
even Anthony Pettis left, man.
Yeah, Anthony Pettis.
I was like, Anthony Pettis left on a win that too.
Yes.
He left. He won his last fight and he left. And I was just... I don't know. I think maybe towards the end of their careers, we've talked about this, how so many fighters choose to, why do I have to grind in the hardest organization in the world?
True.
It's like, why do I have to play in the major leagues when I can, I can rest a little bit. I can take it easy. But fight game, there are no easy fights, man.
There are no easy fights. There are no easy fights,
It's a catch-22. And, before we get into our entire discussion about the pound for pound, the thing is that we want to put out a disclaimer. I know we've been getting messages before we actually, Somesh and I were discussing to do the show. We put out some questions on our social media handle at the Fighting G.O.A.T on Instagram, and we got a bunch of people, writing into us. And we said that today's discussion is going to be about the pound for pound.
Yeah.
Best. And it's going to be a very controversial one. So, guys, please write in if you disagree or agree with us. We're open to discussion.
Absolutely, yes. But having said that, let us move on to the next segment. We're going to be taking a short break. See you on the other side with the Fighting G.O.A.T and more discussions on the pound for pound best fighter in combat sports. See you there.
Welcome back to the Fighting G.O.A.T. You're listening to Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, and my buddies Superhuman, Somesh, Kamra, and since we've been talking about the pound for pound. Now, guys, if you've listened to our previous episodes, we're 25 episodes in, quarter century ho chuki hai, par aur abhi batting baki hai. And sorry, my Hindi sucks, man. Really, I need to start going for tuition. I think you do. I have a teacher. I used to have a teacher in school called Mr. Vaish. And he used to say, "Tu bada hoke santoor gaadi chalayega." I'm not even kidding. I'm fucking not kidding. इसलिए बड़ा होके संतूर गाड़ी चलाएगा. But Hindi बोलनी सीखनी चाहिए ना. So clearly I don't have a Santro.
Did he mean Santro?
Yeah, Santoor is Santro only, na. I mean, but the point is I didn't learn Hindi, so I don't have a Santro now.
Okay.
That's the analogy. But clearly he was pound for pound the best teacher in the world. But my point is coming back to when we talk about the pound for pound discussion, it's a very debatable topic. I think a couple of episodes ago we spoke about how different fighters. We spoke about who gets to decide the pound for pound discussion. Right. Who gets to decide? Who makes the rules? Who does the rankings? Because none of the officials ever have shown their faces. There are no names put next to, whatever the pound for pound rankings are with the asterisks on the side, done by XYZ or done by XYZ. Yeah. I think it's too dangerous a job.
Yep, absolutely. Because it's so controversial. See,
it is. Currently, who would you rank in mixed martial arts? Who is the pound for pound best right now? Top of the hill across all divisions.
You mean current existing fighter?
Current existing. John Jones.
I would say John Jones. Yes. I would definitely say John Jones. It could even be Amanda Nunes, to be honest.
No, again, see, this is the thing. When you say pound for pound, it should go across divisions. Like this guy can be able to kill anybody.
Right.
Like should be able to beat anybody. Like tomorrow, if you see, we can say Demetrius Johnson, pound for pound in his division for sure. At flyweight, Demetrius was the pound for pound best. But if you put Demetrius Johnson against Khabib Nurmagomedov, it's not going to end well.
Very true.
But if you put a John Jones versus a Khabib, Khabib's in trouble.
Yep. So see, similarly, for me, Amanda Nunes is the pound for pound best fighter in the world. She's faced the judokas. She's faced everybody. Across two weight classes. She's defended both belts.
This is where the argument begins now. Again, you see, I think pound for pound discussion is a very personal one. There are certain parameters that you have to look at. Fighting history, kind of fighters, the method of winning, the style in which they've won, right? The records, the weaknesses, the strengths, everything. And I think the pound for pound discussion is something that is generational. It's like saying LeBron James today is the greatest basketball player in the world. But does that take anything away from Michael Jordan? Because he was the greatest in his era.
Or Shaquille O'Neal or Kobe Bryant.
And I think the pound for pound discussion is something that is ongoing. But it shouldn't be ongoing. Because, for example, in our sport, I would say BJ Penn is a legend. He could easily be the pound for pound best lightweight.
Yes, undoubtedly.
That existed for a long time.
Fedor.
Was in his prime, was untouchable. You could hit the man with a shovel or a car across his face and nothing would happen to him.
And he would still come back and submit you.
Correct. He would come back and beat the crap out of you and submit you.
Right.
It's such a difficult discussion. And we spoke to, people wrote in and told us that, I think you guys are wrong and I think you guys are this and that. I'm like, I agree. We could be wrong, dude. It is a very personal discussion. So, personally, I think if you look at a fighter who is transcended through, in his entire journey of fighting, has looked the best that he has, I think that guy would be, that could easily be Valentina Shevchenko, because she looks better and better with each fight.
Wow. Yes, absolutely.
Better and better with each fight.
I couldn't disagree on that. That is, the thing is that also what's happening is that some of these fighters have been fighting for so long. Like, for example, if you look at the Diaz brothers, Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, they've been fighting over the last 16, 17 years professionally.
Speaking of which, Robbie Lawler is going to be fighting Nick now soon.
Nick Diaz. So I mean, I'm just beginning to believe that when Khabib was possibly 8 or 9 years old, Nick Diaz made his professional debut. And Khabib has retired at 32 and Nick Diaz is still fighting.
Crazy, right?
There's also an aspect of ruggedness. There's also an aspect of, there are some guys, the Diaz brothers are the kinds who actually come in to fight. So I feel that should be included in one of the aspects of, may not be the pound for pound greatest, but obviously, the greatest entertainer of all time.
Maybe we can split it up, like they can call it the greatest entertainer, pound for pound best entertainer, pound for pound toughest guy, pound for pound actor, which I know your favorite will come up. And the Oscar goes to.
Well,
but there's a tie in that department. Pound for pound best actor, also Josh Koscheck was no less, huh?
Oh, Josh Koscheck was a fantastic performer.
The phantom knees that hit him, which didn't even touch him. And he used to go unconscious.
In fact, there was this clip that just came out where Colby Covington, I think, hit Kamaru Usman on the liver. And Kamaru played it like it was a low blow. So he went down holding his crotch and he said, no, low blow, low blow, low blow. But when it was replayed, it was a clear shot to the liver.
Wow.
And this happened in their first fight.
Wow. No, that makes it ever so interesting. I can't wait for the press conferences starting now, because when these two throw down again, I think it's UFC 268 is when they're fighting.
Yeah.
And that card is stacked to the gills. It's also got Gaethje and Chandler on it.
Oh my God.
I'm going to lose my shit when we're in the studio, man. I'm going to lose my shit. So screaming up and down.
So, like coming back to the pound for pound, there has to be an aspect of longevity. There has to be an aspect of somebody who's given the sport that absolute fan following. I'm not saying Khabib has not done it, but I feel the newer generation are the guys who kind of come in, cash out, and then retire and go and play other sports. They've literally not given it their sweat and blood. Yes, they have, but coming from the old school, like as I said, like someone like a Gary Goodridge. If a Gary Goodridge was there today, he would have been a different fighter altogether. I feel Gary Goodridge would have given Francis Ngannou a run for his money, because he's got hit by Fedor with some bombs and he's not gone down. This was in Pride. Gary Goodridge versus Fedor. The referee had to step in to stop the fight. This guy just didn't go down, and it's Fedor punching you.
Dude, remember Takayama and Don Fry hitting each other?
Man, those guys just going at it. I mean, man, that was the greatest sequence of all time.
It was, man. That was just something to watch. In every Pride highlight reel, you see Takayama and Don Fry going on. And guys, next week, stay tuned, because A, we're coming to you with a guest, and B, we're coming to you with a very, very special episode of Just Pride. We're just going to talk about Pride Fighting Championships.
Yes.
And that is something that we're going to do. We're going to figure it out if we can involve our listeners into it directly. So that's going to be a fun one. But quickly, sorry for that segue. But so coming back to the pound for pound, it's, I always had in my mind, it's also the method in which you do things. Look at Amanda. Yeah. I understand why Amanda can be pound for pound. I can understand why Valentina can be pound for pound. It's also the way she does things.
Silva.
Correct. I was leading up to that. The brutality with which Amanda beats her opponents. The Valentina, the way she beats her opponents. And Anderson, the unpredictable manner in which he beats his opponent. One day it's a knee to the face. The other day it's a front kick to the face. The other day it's something else. Stephan Bonner was the man who was never knocked out by anybody, was stopped by Silva by a knee to the body.
My God.
To the solar plexus.
Man, that was so brutal.
But poetry in motion. Poetry. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful to watch. And then you got gritty guys like Tito Ortiz back in the day. hammering the life out of people. And it's just, I think it's very tough. It's very tough to choose who it is. But if we had to put a number to it, if we had to put a face to it, I would still say undefeated John Jones makes that list right now.
I think so too. So I think John Jones.
And it's also the way he did it. He at 21. I mean, when Khabib was young, if you look at his old videos, his striking was lackluster. His grappling was very good, and he had a lot of decisions under him. It's only in the last few fights he's just become superhuman.
Right.
Whereas John at 21 murdered Shogun.
And that Lyoto Machida guillotine.
I mean,
man,
it gives nightmares to people. People were so scared to be in the pocket with Jones once upon a time.
Yeah, because he slices with those elbows.
Dude, he used to. I remember his underhook on the left side was right on the elbow, so he could hyperextend your elbow.
It, right?
And he would just twist it and crank the shoulder. So he would not only do damage to your arm and your shoulder, and would be elbowing and slapping you in the face while doing it.
Right. But you see, that's more of a skill issue. I mean, it's not an issue. I'm saying that's more of skill development. However, what you rightly said was, who all has John Jones beaten in his career versus who all has Khabib beaten in his career? 29-0, 30-0, whatever it may be, sounds extremely good as a record. But if you see, the first 20-21 fights were versus nobodies. They were not
Gleison, Tibaus, and I think the first real challenge that Khabib saw was Michael Johnson, and Michael Johnson cracked him.
Yes, he did.
Cracked him standing very badly. And even Khabib had said that, and all the commentators knew Khabib was wobbly.
Yeah.
Khabib really got wobbly. And Michael Johnson is such a great striker, such a talent.
Yeah.
He was incredible. His biggest hole was grappling. And Khabib utilized that. And after that, he didn't want to stand with him ever again.
Yeah.
He just took him down. But you can't see, that's the thing. Khabib had that stellar grappling always. He was always in grappling. But guys like Jones not only had stellar grappling, if you got into range with Jones, firstly, I mean, the only man who took Jones down was Alexander Gustafsson, and that too for like 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
When Jones takes you down, you're not getting back up. No, it's not about getting back up. You're not surviving. You're going to get elbowed to pieces.
He's so quick in his approach. He's so quick in his transitions. He elbows and then he looks for a submission. I'm like, dude, when does this guy breathe? When does his brain stop functioning? It's functioning for every single micro millisecond in those 25 minutes.
It really is, because I remember seeing that fight with Belfort where he almost got submitted from the bottom by armbar. Everybody thought, oh my God, John's arm is in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And he got out of it calmly.
Yeah.
And then eventually just was beating him up with elbows on the ground. Firstly, John's elbows and the technique of way he would push the elbow down into someone's neck was horrendous. He did that to Shogun, and
such an evil man.
Could see Shogun grimacing. And Shogun is one of the toughest SOBs out there.
Yeah,
toughest.
He is.
Like, that man has taken soccer kicks and has broken his arm with Mark Coleman slamming him, and has faced heavyweights. But the kind of pressure that Jones put on him at that age
is next level.
When he was young. And then, he kind of, like every young athlete, he went through the entire phases of becoming rich and screwing up and coming back. But he still held it together.
Yeah, he
with
did.
All his issues outside, he held what was dear to him was always being the best inside.
One of John Jones' most fierce rivals, DC, still compliments him and says, listen, what John does to himself is his biggest issue, and that's always outside the octagon. It's never inside.
Exactly.
So as a sportsman, he is the best of the best. Yeah. Maybe outside he's not a role model, but you cannot take away skills. You cannot take away his skill set.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is never in question. And somebody like DC, who had such a brutal rivalry with Jones, where they were the name calling, where they couldn't pass each other in the hall because they had security around them at all times. Because people were worried that they will start killing each other. Remember that press conference where they just broke the stage and they were just started throwing shoes at him and shit. I was like, what is happening? But the hatred was real. And then for him to come back and say that, you know what, say what you want. I'm a Olympian and I had trouble taking Jones down.
And Jones took him down.
Jones took him down multiple times.
And, I'm like, if that doesn't make you the greatest pound for pound fighter, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I think it's safe to agree that, despite everybody that's being around there, and guys, please remember, come back and join us for a discussion on our social media platforms. The discussion is always open. We could be wrong. There are so many contenders out there. Khabib is one, Jones is one, Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, Anderson Silva, Fedor Emelianenko. I can name 50 other names, but you guys can come back and talk to us about the same thing.
Absolutely. So that pretty much concludes this particular segment. But Chips, we were also talking about boxing. I was so interested in the boxing side of the pound for pound best fucking boxer in the world. A lot of people say Muhammad Ali is the best. But do you think someone like a Canelo Alvarez, a Triple G,
it's
Tyson Fury?
Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, all these guys are great fighters. But it's just, I think it's a combination of things. It's even, I can understand why Conor McGregor was brought into that pocket of best of pound for pound as well, because he was pound for pound the best marketeer ever.
Yes.
Nobody
absolutely.
made more money in MMA than Conor has brought in. Conor changed the game in terms of how much you can earn in MMA.
Even for the promotion.
Even within the rules of a single promotion.
Yes.
He has made most money than a lot of people who have made in their entire careers.
Like, imagine the fighter who has his own brands pasted on the octagon. Proper 12.
Proper 12 is here.
McGregor Sports.
McGregor Sport. Whatever his company. And McGregor is only like some 34 years old.
Yeah.
Or 32 years old. I don't know. And he's looking to make a comeback. See, it's also that toughness, that willingness to compete regardless of win, lose or draw. Guys, like I would put Chuck Liddell into the pound for pound also, because he was such a great, fierce competitor. It was unbelievable to see when Chuck. You see, also it was also a function of old school fans, where they didn't give a shit about records.
Yeah, they didn't care about win, lose, draw. They didn't care about all of that.
I still don't. Like my guys who are fighting next week, Brandon Royval.
Oh, dude, yes,
that dude is mental. I love it.
Sean Strickland said he doesn't care who the opponent is. He doesn't study the videos. He doesn't see who the opponent is. He's like, oh yeah, this, okay, fine, let's go.
So basically a Tank Abbott approach, where he just takes his teeth out last minute. He's like, chalo, now let's fight. Who is it? Acha, okay, ye
Aaj kisko marna hai? Batao.
Aaj kisko marna hai? But to come back to the discussion in boxing is a tough one, because boxing's been around for a lot longer.
Yes.
Boxing has had so many different weight classes, and boxing has had this argument. If you look at the limelight, you've got Ali that comes to mind. You've got Tyson that comes to mind.
Yeah.
You've got so many fighters for the life of me. You've got Lennox Lewis that comes to mind.
Yeah, Lennox Lewis. Yeah.
You got Buster Douglas, who beat Tyson, that comes to mind.
George Foreman.
There are so many great fighters out there. And the pound for pound discussion in boxing is something I really don't want to get into.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to get beat up for it. I guarantee. Because if fans are fans, and they're like, oh, you, what do you know? What do you know?
Yeah.
So, guys, open
to
who are you
interpretation.
lot of people.
Oh, God.
No, but that discussion is open, So, guys, please come join us on our social media platforms. It's at The Fighting G.O.A.T. It's our official handle on Instagram. Come find us and write to us if you agree, disagree, or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this pretty much concludes the discussion of the pound for pound best fighter. When we come back after this short break, we're going to be speaking on the next UFC event, which is Kelvin Gastelum taking on Jared Cannonier. Stay tuned for some more musty, some more talk on the other side, only on the Fighting G.O.A.T. See you on the other side.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, legendary music composer Anu Malik joins Cyrus to share tales from his fascinating Bollywood career. On Filter Coffee, Avinash Pant of Facebook discusses the changes he sees in the creator ecosystem. If you're interested in the Pegasus spyware scandal, do check out All Things Policy as they dive deep into India's cybersecurity capabilities. On Nan Curry, the guys host Tanveer Lad, international badminton player and host of the Millennial Athlete. They discuss what kind of food is available at the Olympics, an athlete's diet, and a whole lot more. And on This Round is on Me, learn about the Indian news media from Lakshmi, founder of Splainer Media. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. That's really helpful for us. And finally, we'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Fiat Cred, Bank of Baroda, Intuit India, and CoinSwitch Kuber. We really do appreciate the support.
Welcome back to the Fighting G.O.A.T. You are listening to episode number 25. Yes, I've repeated for the third time. We're very happy. A quarter century, yaar. We've been saying it over and over again. 25 is a great landmark for us. It's a great number. We've managed to hit some good numbers during this process, and we hope to keep bringing you much more of the same content only on the Fighting G.O.A.T, exclusively on ivmpodcast.com.
Yes, buddy.
And now, Somesh, what were we talking about? We finished a great discussion about the pound for pound, which is honestly we need to do every 2 months, I think. Because it's never ending. It's never ending. हर 2 महीने करना पड़ता है. Because we have to see who is the better one, who is better today, who's better tomorrow. What if Amanda gets knocked out tomorrow? Does that change the entire equation? What if she gets beaten?
You just, I mean, by Juliana Pena?
Like, what if it happens?
No, it's not.
What if it just happens? No. But just suppose she gets submitted. Like, suppose she gets put into a mounted triangle. No, like she gets a mounted triangle. Suppose.
I'm going to go into coma.
Or she gets a straight armbar on her out of nowhere.
Yeah. Coma, straight.
Did anybody expect Michael Chiesa to get submitted by a Das?
No.
Out of the blue?
Like, man, you know, when that happened, I just accepted defeat to you.
I know. Oh, sorry, I'm still leaning, defending. Undisputed. which brings us to our wonderful segment of the next week's fights. So take us away, Mr. Kamra. It's Gastelum versus Cannonier.
In the middleweight division, that's probably the most exciting fight on the card. It's the main event of the evening. It's going to happen at UFC Apex. And I am so looking forward to welcoming Kelvin Gastelum back in the octagon.
I know, man. Gas is amazing. He's one of the best fighters I know in that welterweight division. Old school brawler, wrestler. He takes the fight to anywhere it goes and is one of the only fighters to have actually rocked the champion badly.
Yes, Israel Adesanya was rocked bad. You know, that was in fact one of the best fights I have ever seen.
Oh, man.
Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum was the fight. I mean, when I ever feel low and I want to see a fight, I just type Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum. I think that's one of the best fights I have ever seen in my life, apart from Fedor versus Nogueira.
No, I think my go-tos are Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler.
Oh,
Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. Man. And I think too many, man. Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin.
Those. But you know what? This just showed so many knockdowns. It had, Izzy was knocked and then Kelvin was knocked, but both didn't go down. It just went till the distance.
It was a brawl.
I mean, there were so many times where we were like, oh, it's going to get stopped. And then the bell saved Kelvin.
Oh, it's going to get stopped and Izzy got saved.
But in
the last 2 rounds, I think after the one time that Izzy got hurt, Israel just turned it up and proved why he was championship.
He didn't. In fact, he didn't go into his shell. He turned the volume up and said, listen, let's do this. I love that attitude.
He bit down on his mouthpiece and said, bring it.
That is beautiful.
That was incredible. So we've got Gastelum taking on Jared Cannonier. Cannonier, though, he's a great fighter. He's really, really tough. But he's going to be taking on somebody like Gastelum, and that's a big jump up in competition.
Do you know Jared Cannonier used to fight in heavyweight division, then he came down to light heavyweight, and now he's in middleweight?
Dude, he carries that power with him. It just shows.
Yeah.
Crazy. Because I remember him leg kicking the Spider. Yeah. The Spider was done after 2 kicks.
Yeah.
Also considering Spider was 45 and it's not fair. And he should have taken on the Spider in his early 30s if he really wanted a challenge.
But, Jared Cannonier
has... I'm still hurt about it. I agree.
Jared Cannonier has all the skills. We do know that Kelvin Gastelum comes in with that little boxing approach. He uses his punches a lot. He relatively has thinner legs compared to his upper body. if Cannonier can capitalize, I think it's going to be a great fight. However, I think Kelvin is way more experienced when it comes to main events and 5-round fights.
Yes.
He's much younger. He's 29. Cannonier is 37.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Cannonier is 37. He's not had the best run in the UFC in the last couple of years.
Did Cannonier face Whittaker last? If I'm right?
Yes, he did.
Cannonier
Yes, he
lost
did.
to Whittaker last.
Yeah, yes.
If I remember. But he managed to hurt Whittaker once or twice as well.
Yes, he did.
It was a tough fight.
But you know what? Whittaker has that confrontational approach, so he's bound to get tagged. Everybody tags Whittaker. It's just who can put him out, you know?
True. But Whittaker's also become a far more technical fighter of late.
Correct.
He's become a far more careful fighter. But Kelvin Gastelum, on the other hand, puts the pedal to the metal. He's going to come after you. And he's going to come after you hard. And even the former champ, Whittaker, had a tough time with Gastelum.
Yes.
He went the full 5 rounds.
Yes.
So this is going to be a really, really important it's going to be a really telling factor, because Gastelum is the kind of fighter who, you know, it doesn't matter where he is, he'll take fights on short notice, and he will probably he's always one fight away from a title shot.
Correct.
He's just one fight away from a title shot.
You know, he is that kind of fighter. You know, obviously he's with one of the best coaches, Rafael Cordero from King's MMA, that pumps him like crazy. He's always ready. You know, he's ready 365 days in the year. I love that attitude, and I think that is the attitude that is going to sail him through this particular fight with a very dangerous Jared Cannonier.
All right, sir. Then what is the prediction that you're making for this?
So my prediction is round 3, round 4. I think he's going to finish him. I don't know whether he's going to knock him out or he's going to submit.
Who's going to finish him?
But Kelvin Gastelum takes this one.
Yes, I agree with Kelvin Gastelum taking this one as well. I think Kelvin is a very, very tough fighter. It's going to take something special to stop him. And I think with all the experience that he brings, it's going to be a finish for Kelvin. So Kelvin Gastelum from my side as well.
That's great. So I think that's the most exciting fight on the card. And that brings us to the end of episode 25, which is our quarter century episode of the Fighting GOAT. We look forward on seeing you same time next week with Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, and your very own Somesh Superhuman Kamra. So ladies and gentlemen, keep listening to more podcasts on ivmpodcast.com and do not miss the quarter century episode of the Fighting GOAT. See you then.
Whether you're an established sports person or a budding one, or simply a sports enthusiast, join us, Tanvi and Shlok.
We are 2 passionate pro badminton players talking policy, mindset and everything sport.
So tune in to The Millennial Athlete every Monday.
Only on the IVM Podcast Network.
Trust us, it's gonna be lit.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं। हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार